my guest today is Alison Metcalfe, Tourism Ireland's Executive Vice President of the US and Canada. Welcome, Alison. And before we start talking about what's new this year for US travelers, and I know we have a lot to talk about there, I wanted to touch on the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. And can you tell me about its significance for Tourism Ireland?
Yes, absolutely. Tourism Ireland was set up under Strand 2 of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. So Strand 2 was looking at sort of north-south bodies, and tourism was called out as one of those areas for closer cooperation. So I think it would be fair to say that Tourism Ireland has been a success story in terms of working with the agency now, the cross-border agency responsible for the international marketing of the island of Ireland, north and south, for leisure travel purposes. It was established in 2002, so it's certainly got a fairly sort of well-oiled machine now. But I think what it has done is it's meant that the Good Friday Agreement has transformed the tourism sector, I think, on the island, and it's certainly from a Northern Ireland's perspective, I think it really has transformed lives and provided a lot more opportunities in terms of jobs and education, both in the urban and the rural areas. And I think if you just look at some of the results, overseas visitor numbers to Northern Ireland have more than doubled since 1998. They've gone from about 1.3 million to 3 million visitors, and there's been significant investment in product. And the tourism sector has really become a key economic driver, with approximately 65,000 people employed in the sector. That was the number before COVID, and it's obviously building back now as we recover. So the peace dividend for tourism has been massive, and I think as we commemorate 25 years, as we have done since the signing of the agreement over the last couple of weeks, I think the future is very positive, and I think we've seen what can be achieved by working together. Tourism is borderless, and I think it'd be fair to say that tourism brings peace, and peace has brought tourism. So I think it's something that is held up as a shining light and a really positive outworking of the Good Friday Agreement.
That's a lovely way of putting it. Peace brings tourism, tourism brings peace. And in terms of the recovery after COVID for the island of Ireland, how was 2022, and what are we looking at for 2023?
Well, last year, I have to say that the recovery was much faster and much stronger than we anticipated. We got back to about 75–80% of our visitor arrivals. So that was our 75 to 80% of 2019 visitor arrivals. So that was a very positive position. And as we look towards 2023 and this year, that demand momentum is really strong. Interest in visiting the island of Ireland is still extremely encouraging. We're looking towards an even stronger year this year. Our goal is to get back to 2019 revenue levels, so by 2025. So as we look towards this year, all I can see at the moment is very positive. We've seen a very strong restoration of air access, so we have direct services from 15 gateways, and that obviously is fundamental to driving that recovery. But we're finding people, they want to stay longer, they want to spend more, and they really want to, I think, take time to enjoy the island of Ireland. So fingers crossed, it's looking very good. But the overall US outbound travel market to Europe is also very strong. So it is competitive, but Ireland has a great product, we believe. And sometimes we forget that if you're flying to Europe, we are the first port of call. So it's certainly a very attractive proposition. So I am cautiously optimistic. I'm more optimistic than I am cautious. I think it's looking pretty good. And, I know we're going to talk about some of the campaigns that we have out there. So we're working hard to make sure that Ireland recovers as quickly as possible. I would expect to get back to around 90% of our 2019 visitor levels this year.
Now, it's a pretty competitive market out there. I know the US is really important to Ireland and the diaspora, but it is pretty competitive. So what kind of standouts do you have in your marketing campaign? And I know, haven't you added staff to the San Francisco office? Or I know that.
Yeah, so essentially what we're doing this year, so last year it was all about restarting tourism, and we launched our what we called our Green Button campaign, and it was very much about getting people to just press that button and travel, getting to people to convert. They've been thinking about visiting Ireland for a long time during those COVID months and couple of years. This year we're refocusing on building long-term sustainable growth and focusing on driving sort of higher spending visitors, looking to target those consumers that want to spend longer in Ireland, want to travel out to the regions, are interested in traveling in the shoulder seasons. There's great benefits for doing that, and also are conscious of the impact that they have when they travel. So what are we doing? We've just launched a new campaign, a new global advertising campaign, which is called Fill Your Heart with Ireland. And this is a campaign that is designed to inspire people to think about putting Ireland on their consideration list for now and also into the future. It's designed to celebrate and also showcase how Ireland fills the heart of both visitors and locals. And this campaign is spearheaded by, we have a few celebrities spearheading the campaign. We have Sharon Horgan from Bad Sisters fame. We also have two of the Derry Girls, and we're also using locals. So it's about showcasing the very best of what Ireland has to offer in terms of its landscapes, its authentic culture, and above all, the welcome. And we're also engaging locals to share their experiences. So it's what we call an advocacy campaign, but we launched it here in the US in just a couple of weeks ago, April the 3rd, and we have television ads running right across the country in markets up and down the East Coast and the Midwest and also on the West Coast. And we're also obviously very active across digital and social channels. And the second thing I suppose we have done over the last 12, 15 months is expand our operations here in the US. As you mentioned, the US market is very important for Irish tourism. It's the #1 market by revenue. Before COVID, it represented 27% of all international revenue. And we've seen significant growth from this market in general, but we've also seen significant growth specifically from some of the luxury segments, and particularly from the West Coast and Southern states. So we were pleased to open our Western US office in San Francisco, January of 2022. And it's great just to see now with our team out there, just the impact that they are having in terms of making new connections with distributors, with tour operators, with airlines, and also being able to offer more marketing opportunities for our industry in Ireland, as well as our tour operators here in the US, to sell Ireland and to do business and to win more group and luxury business for the island of Ireland.
And certainly with all of the success of the film industry in Ireland, I mean, that's definitely a great marketing angle. And Sharon Horgan, I've seen the ads, they're just great. So, you know, looking.
Yes, green tourism is certainly, I mean, listen, Ireland is full of wonderful movie sets. As you know, we've had great success, not just over the most recent years, but a long time ago, obviously. For many years, Ireland has been viewed as a very scenic and a very attractive destination for filmmakers. But we have had tremendous success. Most recently, obviously, we've had success on the small screen with Game of Thrones. We've had Star Wars on the big screen. We've had Banshees of Inisherin. We've had Derry Girls. So what we're trying to do at Tourism Ireland, and we know that people are influenced by movie locations, and sometimes that can be the trigger to inspire them to visit that destination. So we try and work with some of the production companies before they start filming and try and gain access to some of the cast. So again, you will have seen some of the videos that we've released around Banshees of Inisherin. We had some super interviews with Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, and we've done it with other movies too, where the cast have been very generous in just talking about their experience filming in Ireland, but also just why they love Ireland, or if it's their first visit, what their impressions are. So it's very credible, very authentic, and we've managed to then obviously work very closely with those production companies and gain all the required permissions, who have very kindly allowed us to push some of those videos out across our social and digital channels. And we've had huge success in terms of just the millions of views of, particularly the Banshees is the most recent one. And we also have Dungeons and Dragons out there right now. So it's, you know, screen tourism, film tourism is a very impactful way of attracting certain segments of the market.
And speaking of Game of Thrones, I know that there's been a lot of investment north and south and these attractions. Can you talk about maybe some of the older ones and some of the new ones that are coming up?
Yes, you mentioned Game of Thrones. So the Game of Thrones studio tour just opened a couple of years ago in Banbridge, and that is a must-see, certainly for fans. But even if you're not a fan, it's an incredible experience. And I visited that myself, and you've an incredible display of all the sets and absolutely everything to do with Game of Thrones is there. Other investment in, for example, Titanic Belfast opened in 2012. Just this past year, they've invested another 4 or 5 million in reimagining some of their galleries, and I was there recently. They've done a tremendous job, and there's a lot of artifacts that have never been seen before, and a lot of new footage that Dr. Ballard has shared with them. So again, that's a flagship project. Huge investment in some of our blueways and greenways. So we have had the Western Greenway along the Wide Atlantic Way, but recently the East Coast Greenway opened. We've also got the Dublin Coastal Trail. There's a new museum in Limerick for World Rugby. So again, if you've got an interest there. And I think what we've also seen over the last couple of years, particularly, is investment in a lot of new authentic experiences around food. There's some great food tours out there, and also around music and culture. So there's constant investment in developing new and authentic experiences, allowing people to get very close to doing things with locals. For example, you can, there's several examples around the country where you can go out to farms and be with a shepherd or with just do the sheep trials. You can also go to a lot of cooking schools and make brown bread or soda bread with very many different locations. So it's all about being able to engage with locals, I think, and really get under the skin of what the destination has to offer. So more to come, and of course there's been lots of investment in the accommodation sector as well. So tourism really is it's high on the economic agenda in government, and because it is such an important contributor to the economy through jobs. And I think we've been very fortunate to have a government that's been very supportive through thick and thin, through COVID, through wage and business supports, but also in continued investment, capital investment in ensuring that some of those brand experiences and along the Wide Atlantic Way, Ireland's ancient east, the hidden heartlands, Dublin and into Northern Ireland, that investment has continued.
Well, you really can't go wrong. And of course, there's always golf. I mean, it really is a paradise for golfers.
It is a golfer's paradise. And I think we're home to 1/3 of the world's true links courses, and that's the main reason that American golfers would travel to the island of Ireland. I think two big things coming up. Obviously, we have the Open Championship returning to Royal Portrush in 2025. So again, people are keen to play Royal Portrush either before or after. And of course, the Ryder Cup is returning to Ireland in 2027 and will be hosted at Adare Manor. I think the important thing to point out, I think, for golfers is, first of all, if you want trophy courses, you want to play those signature courses, book early. Secondly, to say that there's fantastic links courses outside of what is traditionally known as some of the links courses, but there's great value to be had up in the north and northwest. So if you played Portrush and Portstewart, but look at Ballyliffin in Donegal, look at Rosapenna, look at Cairn, look at Sligo. And I think it is about the complete package when you golf in Ireland. It's the world-class golf, which you expect, stunning scenery, but is the world-famous hospitality and welcome that really sort of sets ourselves apart.
So it really is pretty easy to get to Ireland. I mean, there's a lot of accessibility now, right? There's a lot of flights and.
Absolutely. You've got direct access from 15 gateways right across the US. New services this year would be the Aer Lingus service from Cleveland to Dublin, which starts in May. We've also seen United Airlines bring back their Chicago Shannon service. So again, good to see more access coming into Shannon for people wanting to start right out on the Wide Atlantic Way. So we really have seen the restoration of pretty much basically all gateways that we had before COVID. Obviously, Cleveland is a new gateway, and I suspect there will be more to come as we move into 2024. And that has really driven our growth. I mean, it has to be easy to get to a destination, I think, nowadays. It's also worth reminding people, and sometimes we take it for granted for those of us that travel back and forward a lot, but again, Ireland, Shannon and Dublin airports are still the only airports in Europe that have the US pre-customs and border patrol clearance. So for American travelers arriving back, leaving Ireland and arriving back into the US, they arrive back as domestic passengers. And that takes a lot of the hassle out of things. And equally so, if you're arriving back into the US and have to make a connection, again, it's much easier because you just connect as a domestic passenger. So that's a real, it's a real benefit that Ireland can offer travelers.
The other thing about Ireland, I always feel, is that you can go any time of the year. There's always something on, right? And it's really nice to go local to the festivals. Or
it is, absolutely. I mean, as you know, the weather is temperate. It never gets too hot. It never gets too cold. So, and people often ask me, when is the rainy season? There isn't a rainy season. It can rain at any time of the year. You can get all 4 seasons in one day. But but yes, absolutely, we are trying to encourage, and certainly we're seeing more people traveling outside of the peak. So any time from sort of October through to April is a great time to go. And Ireland is also home to so many great festivals. So whether, and a lot of those festivals take place in the shoulder months. So you could have Tradfest in January, which is a wonderful music festival. It takes place in different venues across the city of Dublin. I remember a few years ago, they had visitors from maybe one state in the US. Now they have visitors from all 50 states. So it just shows you the opportunity there. Halloween, of course, has been significant investment in building out the Puka Festival. Ireland being home to Halloween, again, something that we can own, something that's very authentic, and something that not everybody is aware of. New Year's Eve festival. So there's lots of music and literary festivals as well. I mean, you have the Dublin Literary Festival coming up in May. So the festivals are a great way to also engage with locals, and I think that's what American travelers like to do. The other bonus is it's usually slightly less crowded traveling in the shoulder months. Airfares are usually a little bit, better value as well. So there's great opportunities there, and I think the smart traveler is certainly already aware of those benefits, and we're keen certainly to encourage more travelers to consider traveling in the off season.
Great. Well, just to end, the 30 million Americans who claim Irish heritage are very important, right, to Ireland. And
yes, with probably America's most famous Irish American, the president, visiting Ireland and making that very strong emotional connection with his roots. And I mean, we're fortunate to have about 32 million Americans who claim Irish ancestry, very proud of their heritage, and it certainly is a reason for people to visit the island of Ireland. I think people are just curious about exploring their roots. So we're fortunate to have that deep vein. We don't take it for granted, but it's certainly something that we are keen to sort of continue to leverage. And the great thing about people when they're going back to explore their ancestors, they come back and they've got great stories, and they share they share all of those stories. They're great advocates for the broader leisure market for people that perhaps don't have ancestors. But at the end of the day, we believe that Ireland is a great destination, whether you have Irish heritage or not. We're just blessed to have a huge number of Americans here that do have heritage, and we're very fortunate in that, and that they certainly blaze the trail for us.
Alison, thank you very much for spending time with us, and we look forward to talking to you again, and see you soon again. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Patricia. Thank you.